Hi everybody, so today we welcome GSK to our Thursday webinar. GSK is one of the world's leading healthcare companies. I'm really looking forward to introducing you to talent and attraction specialist Josh, that's a mouthful Josh, senior scientist Fionnuala and placement students Hashim and Zoe. So thank you very much for joining us today. Josh will give us insight into the recruitment processes and share with us some helpful hints and tips. Fionnuala will tell us all about her career as a scientist at GSK, and we'll hear from Hashim and Zoe about their placements and why they chose to work at GSK. So, Josh, starting with you, take a deep breath. Can you introduce yourself to the audience, who you are and what you do?
Sure. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many of you joining us this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. So as Carla mentioned, I'm Josh, and my role is working in our early talent recruitment team here at GSK. So that means our team are responsible for recruiting and running the recruitment processes for anything for students and people right at the very beginning of their career. So we look after the recruitment for our graduate program, which is called the Future Leaders Program, our industrial placement scheme, and our apprenticeships as well. So that's what our team do. Yeah, great to be here, and I'm sure we'll tell you a lot more about GSK over the course of the next hour or so.
Thanks, Josh. It's really good to have you back. So Josh mentioned there about the industrial placements. We've actually got 38 on your hub, and your students can go away and apply to those today. So the girls at GradCracker have been adding those in preparation for this webinar. So a bit of a heads up to Georgia and Olivia. And you've got 2 graduate opportunities currently advertised on the GSK hub. One of them closes today, so make sure you get your applications in. So thanks, Josh. We'll be coming back to Josh a little bit later on. So Fionnuala, I'm so excited to welcome you today. So you are a senior scientist at GSK. So introduce yourself to the audience. How long have you been at GSK and what is your role?
Yeah, well, thank you very much for having me. As Carla mentioned, I'm Fionnuala and I'm a senior scientist here at GSK. I've been at GSK for about 18 months now. I studied for quite a while before joining. I did an undergraduate in genetics, and then I went on to do a PhD after. So I joined in about April time last year, and I work in a department called functional genomics. And the main aim of kind of what we do in this department is we look at how genes contribute to many different biological processes and diseases. So we have some people looking at how genes develop into cancer and many other sort of diseases. My role, I'm a gene editing scientist. So we use some quite cutting edge techniques, which I quite like. So these are things such as CRISPR, if anybody's heard of that. And we basically manipulate the expression of genes, either making more of the expression of genes or downregulating that to see how that can lead to the disease. And we then can pass on any findings we have to other departments in GSK, and they can use that information to try to design some drugs and medicine. So a lot of genetics, a lot of genes is what I do. And yeah, I'm based in the lab all the time pretty much. So yeah, it's a bit of a summary of what I get up to.
Oh, brilliant. Really good insight there. So what made you decide and what about the GSK stood out for you and why did you apply to them?
Well, I really liked the idea of being able to see sort of the work you do in a lab go from a concept all the way down to a drug and potential to help patients that way. And that is quite a key thing of GSK. We're very patient focused, and that really appealed to me. So I think that's probably the main reason why I wanted to join this company.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's really good insight to what you do there. So now what I'm going to do is move on to Hashim and Zoe. So you're both undergrads, and so you're currently both doing a year placement at GSK. So Zoe, you've unmuted yourself first, so I'm going to come to you. Could you just tell the audience about which university you go to and what you study, please?
So hi guys, it's lovely to speak to you all today. So I'm Zoe, and I go to the University of Birmingham, and I study a master's chemical engineering degree with a year in industry. So that's 5 years in total, but this is my 4th year, which I'm out on industry at GSK.
Thank you, Zoe. And I think Jess wants to give out a bit of a shout out to Birmingham because it's one of her nearest and dearest universities.
Oh, they're all brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, thank you to all the career service desk, because Ruth was saying how they've been pushing this webinar. So I'm sure there's loads of people from Birmingham here to watch you, Zoe. So yeah, just a shout out to them.
not to add any pressure to Zoe at
No.
all for things. So basically, Zoe, all of your lecturers and all of your friends are watching you. So now we're going to no pressure. Hashim, on to you, my love. So which university are you currently attending and what do you study?
Yeah, hello everyone. Nice to meet you all. My name is Hashim and I'm studying biomedical science at the University of Sheffield. It's a 3-year undergraduate degree normally, but with this year in industry, I'm taking a year out, so in total it'll be 4 years. So yeah, nice to meet everyone.
Thank you very much, Hashim. Back onto you, Zoe. So I know that you both found your placements on GradCracker, but Zoe, why did you choose GSK? Why did they stand out for you?
So I think GSK stood out for me because, well, I wanted to work in a pharmaceutical company and get hands-on experience in industry. And GSK is one of the top pharmaceutical global companies in the world, and they are really at the forefront of their industry, creating innovative medicines. And I just really wanted to experience the culture, and the culture here is so friendly, and everyone's so happy to help. And I really found that in my interview, that I really connected with the people that were interviewing me. And yeah, it's just a great company to work for. So definitely made the right decision.
Oh, brilliant. We're going to find out a bit more about your role later on, Zoe, but thank you for that introduction. And same question to you, Hashim. So what stood out about GSK on the GradCracker Hub?
Yeah, sort of similar to what Zoe said, I really did connect with the people who were interviewing me. I think what it was is I really enjoyed that the company had a big focus on development and nurturing development in their employees. Definitely, everyone here is so focused on developing new skills and constantly improving, which is such a big thing that I like and is something that I was drawn to. And that was really the major reason behind applying for this placement, is because I felt like this would be a brilliant opportunity to really develop some new skills and also get some experience in the clinical field and some clinical trials as well. So definitely development was the biggest part.
And since you've been there, what new skills or old skills do you feel like you've developed the most?
Yeah, well, I'm definitely learning some new technical skills in my role, so that's really interesting, something that I've not had experience with before, but I'm definitely refining some old skills, definitely a lot in communication. There is a lot of communication going on in the role, and it's really helped refine it and enhance how I talk to people and how I communicate with them. That and a lot of organization as well has definitely been valuable so far to basically prioritize all my workload, and that's been a really good opportunity to develop skills in organization.
Yeah, I bet that's definitely going to help you when you go back to your final year at university as well, isn't it? Just to make sure you finish off those couple of years. What we're going to do now, before we go on and meet the IPs and Fionnuala and Josh in a little bit more detail, we're going to do the quick fact fire round. Drum roll, please. So, Fionnuala, I'm going to start with you. What is your key fact about GSK?
So an exciting fact about GSK is that last month, the World Health Organization recommended the rollout of our malaria vaccine, which is actually the first vaccine to be used to prevent malaria. So this is going to have huge impact across many countries and many people. So I think that's a very exciting fact and makes me excited about working for a company that can have that impact globally.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you very much. Zoe, on to you.
So my fact is our values at GSK is respect, integrity, patient focus, and transparency. Just a quick tip is when you're applying to GSK, just make sure you link back to the values. That will really help your application as well.
Oh, sneaky little insight there. Thank you, Zoe. Hashim, on to you.
Yeah, my fact is just a bit about the history of GSK. GSK was founded in December 2000 and was kind of the merging of different companies. So Glaxo, SmithKline and Beecham and Wellcome. So it's quite a big company and lots of them merged together.
Thank you. People won't know about that, so the good one. Josh?
Yeah, so GSK has actually formed the 3 businesses that make up the company. So our pharmaceuticals business, which makes those life-saving medicines that I think we've touched upon, the vaccines business, and also our consumer healthcare. So GSK has a huge consumer healthcare business, which has brands that a lot of you listening would probably have heard of or use yourself, like Sensodyne and Aquafresh and Panadol and lots of very much household names. It's actually, my fact is, we're in the middle of a big split within that part of our business. So in the next year or so, the consumer healthcare part of GSK is going to split to form a standalone company. It's going to be, I think, the largest consumer healthcare kind of focused company in the world. So it's a very, very exciting time, I think, to join GSK in general, but also if you are interested in the consumer healthcare side of things, it's an exciting time to join and potentially be there from the very beginning, I think. So yeah.
Oh, that is exciting. So just thinking from an audience's point of view then, can they apply your opportunities, could they be in any of those areas that you've just mentioned, or they're quite specific to an individual area?
They tend to be, yes, specific. So for example, the placements that we have open with you at the moment, we have a number within consumer research and development. So those are typically based at our Weybridge site, which is in Surrey, and that's working on the kind of research and development on those consumer products. You'd be based in the consumer business. We do have a variety of other roles that might be based on one of our pharmaceutical research and development sites, such as Stevenage, which is in Hertfordshire, or working in one of our other businesses too. So you tend to be based in one of the businesses, depending on what you're applying for. Of course, there are some roles, for example, my role, where you're kind of in one of the support functions or kind of working centrally, and you do have a bit of exposure to everything. Many of the roles that we've got advertised on GradCracker at the moment, and as Carla mentioned, there's quite a lot of them, particularly in the placements.
There is.
They tend to be in a specific business, but it should be fairly straightforward, fairly obvious when you have a look through. There'll be plenty of information on the job descriptions about where you'd be based.
Perfect, thanks, Josh. And Josh has just mentioned, so they do have all of their opportunities advertised on GradCracker at the moment, with deadlines ongoing. So make sure you, after this webinar, get your applications in, and Josh would love to hear from you. So Josh, I know you just mentioned briefly about the roles. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about the opportunities that you've got open this year? And can you just give the students a bit of an indication of things like closing dates, timelines and everything else, please?
Yeah, so we've just opened a couple of days ago, about 2 days or so ago, a real variety of industrial placement roles. So across loads and loads of different areas. So I think Carla mentioned there's 38, did you say,
38,
on GradCracker at the moment? Yeah. So that's 38 different teams that you can join. We take on typically each year about 300 industrial placement students, and they're across lots and lots of different business areas. So no matter what you're studying, no matter what you're interested in as well, hopefully there will be something open now. If you're looking at a placement, that'll be a good fit for you, a good match for you, something that might be of interest. We do have roles, I know probably a lot of people listening to this or watching this back, maybe a final year or maybe already graduated and looking at what to do after university. Our technology future leaders program is open now, closing quite soon, and we do have a healthcare sales representative role, which is open for a graduate. That's closing, I think, slightly later today, but we do have roles in that area opening quite frequently. We've got another one that's either just opened or will be opening shortly within that healthcare sales rep team as well, and they're open to people from all sorts of degree subjects, ideally with some sort of STEM degree and interested in that sort of sales and kind of commercial outlook. Yeah. We also do have, and we will have, other roles opening slightly later in the year and kind of start of next year. So we've got a graduate program that's based at our Barnard Castle site, which is one of our manufacturing sites in the northeast of England. And I don't know exactly when that's going to be opening yet, but hopefully towards the end of this year, we have a graduate program there that will be opening. And we do offer some summer placements as well. Not a huge amount of summer placements, but we do have summer roles within our research and development teams, within tech, and a couple of other areas too. They're typically open for applications in the early part of next year, so sort of January, February 2022. And finally, we do have a kind of insight event, insight day called GSK Revealed, which takes place in the spring each year, and that's typically for first year students. So if anyone is a first year student and interested in coming to join us, hopefully this year in person in our head office at GSK House in West London, applications for those events will be going live slightly later in 2021.
Perfect. You've got a lot on offer. Sorry, Jess.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for first year students, isn't it? To try, get in front of yourselves, trying to get a bit of that experience, see what the world is like at your end for a day. Yeah, any students.
Yeah. So
about
it's
that as well.
it's quite an interesting one. You get to meet a lot of people from GSK, do some networking, learn, and meet our current grads and placement students. Because as I say, we've got lots and lots of different placement roles, lots and lots of different graduate routes as well. And if you're in your first year, you might have absolutely no idea which one would be a good fit for you, or would even be of interest. So there's a good opportunity to learn a little bit more about what we actually offer and try and make sure this could actually be a company you'd be interested to work in and actually like to work for. So it gives you a really good insight into the culture of of GSK as a company as well.
Yeah, lots of opportunities and lots of lovely locations as well that you've just mentioned. So thank you very much for that, Josh. I was going to say something else. Yes, so if you are not at the moment, so I just got an inspirational tip. So if you're not ready to apply for your opportunities yet, make sure you follow GSK, so then you get an alert, push notification and an email when Josh opens the other opportunities that he's just mentioned. So either apply or follow is the message for now. And I think we're going to move on to the Zoe and Hashim.
Yeah, we're going to talk about your roles now a bit, and just if you can give us an indication of what you've kind of experienced so far and tell us what everything's like. So Zoe, I'll come to you first, and yeah, if you could tell us a bit about your placement that you're on at the moment.
Okay, so I'm a process engineer in the micronizing technical team at PSC Ware, which is one of the manufacturing sites where we produce oral solid dosage products and inhalers. So just to break that down a bit, my role, so being in the technical team, that involves trying to continually improve the processes that are here at Ware, and also helping to solve issues when things don't go quite to plan. So that's sort of what my role is. And then the area I work in is called micronizing. So what that means is that we take the active ingredients that go into these pharmaceutical products and we reduce the particle size of them. So that's my role in, I guess, sort of simplified down. But there's a lot more to it. But it would be quite technical to get into that.
Why do you want to do that?
I was going to say, so I know this is probably a stupid question, but I don't know the answer. But so why would you want to reduce the particle size then? Why would you want to do that?
So that makes sure that the particles can get to your lungs, especially in the inhalers. And also with the oral solid dosage products, it means that the blend is better because it gives you a more even blend with even particle size. So that's why you do that. So yeah.
Oh, see, I understand that.
Zoe, so far, so how long have you been there, sorry?
So just over 3 months now.
3 months.
So, yeah.
So if you were to reflect on those 3 months already, has it met your expectations already, or is it, what's the experience like? Are you a bit surprised again with the responsibility, all this stuff that you're involved in and the knowledge that you're gaining, or what's it like?
I didn't really know what to necessarily expect coming into the role. I had a bit of a briefing with the previous placement students in my role, and yeah, it's been probably a lot more I've taken on than what I expected. I've got quite a bit of responsibility with projects where I'm actually owning those projects, and I need to get deadlines done so that I don't affect production and make sure everything's on time. I've also, I get to go into operation, I get to speak to the operators. It's been very knowledgeable, getting to learn about the process in more detail, getting to see it with my own eyes as well, which has been really great because then that is something I can take back with me when I go back to uni and take the theoretical knowledge that I've learned at uni and be able to see how that is actually applied in industry.
Yeah.
I've also been involved a lot with the committee. So what I really like about GSK is I don't know if all companies do this, but we have the IP Unite committee, which is involved with getting all the IPs involved in charity, sports, social, and development events. And I was lucky enough to be the site ambassador for my site here. And also the charity rep on a UK-wide basis. So I've had quite a bit of responsibility with that, sorting out charity events and events for the IPs here at Ware, which has been really great because that's really improved my leadership skills. And I really like that's something that GSK offer here, and it really helps the socialising aspect with other placement students.
What sort of events have you been organising, Zoe? What have you got on the cards? You were good at that.
We've had pub quizzes.
Cool.
At the moment we're doing Movember, so I'm running 60 kilometers this month for Movember, and we're going to be having a charity day on the 30th as well. We've got the Winter Olympics coming up at Ware, which is graduates versus placements versus apprentices. where we will be doing different sporting activities and like scavenger hunts around where and a competition between us running up to winter, running up to Christmas. So yeah, so there's loads of things going on. Yeah, I think we played rounders as well the other week. So
that sounds like fun, doesn't it?
You know, some of the charities that you get involved in, are they sometimes health charities, or can it be something completely random? Does it have to really be related to GSK in any way, or could there be a completely random?
So GSK have some charities that that are their charities that they tend to give quite a bit of money to. So one of them Save the Children, and the other one's Maggie's. I think there's a third one as well, which I'm not sure, but it isn't a case that you have to necessarily raise money for those charities, but a lot of the events that we tend to do tends to go towards those charities because GSK will match whatever we raise.
Oh, brilliant!
So which is obviously a really good incentive.
Absolutely. So well done, GSK, and well done you guys for getting involved. I'd love to know who's going to win this graduate intern and apprenticeship.
Interns.
I'm going to come to you next just to see a bit about, again, same question. What is kind of the experiences like you've had so far? And yeah, same question really. So I can imagine it's going to be slightly different. I know you can't talk about everything you've been working on so far, so I'll try not push you too much. But yeah, if you could tell us a bit about your experiences so far.
Yeah, so I'm working as a clinical data manager at GSK House in London. So I'm working with the clinical trial team to run the clinical trials and work very closely to make sure that the data from these trials is clean and is of a high quality, because that data is really important, because that's what we use to make decisions. It's what we use at the end of a trial for the regulatory authorities to make decisions and approve the drug. So a lot of my responsibility lies in making sure that data is correct, accurate, clean.
Okay.
So yeah, as I mentioned, I'm working clinical trials, so I'm working with a team of different roles. We work quite closely to coordinate if everything is going to plan with the drug. So it's quite interesting to see how the drug starts in the lab and then moves into the clinical trial phase. And it's really interesting to learn about how the trials are designed, how they're tested in the subjects, and what the outcomes are, because it's always good to focus on what you're working towards. So it's kind of interesting to see that whole process and sort of what goes on a day-to-day basis, how it's run, how it's coordinated. Timelines are always a really important thing. So yeah, it's kind of really exciting, fast moving. I like it. Yeah.
Oh, I bet it sounds amazing. And do you know what? I think with everything that's gone on with coronavirus, I think your work now resonates with everyone more now than ever before, doesn't it? You know, you can imagine, the pressure, the strains and everything you're going through. It just seems to resonate with everyone, and it just seems so interesting. Like all of you, honestly, I believe you should all wear capes, because I think you're all superheroes, because the work and everything you all do is absolutely phenomenal. So you must be really proud of yourself to be involved in these kind of projects so early on in the placement. How are you finding those kind of responsibilities?
Yeah, it's exciting. I really only play quite a small part in the big picture, but I would say from my observations, I also agree that the people working on clinical trials, they always have my respect, because they do work quite hard to make sure that the drug is ready, it's developed, it's tested, it's ready to go to market. So just on what I've observed, it's been a really exciting process, and you can see that there are changes that are being made, and as a company we are patient focused, and so that the outcome of the trial is always to benefit the patient. So it is not only an exciting but rewarding process as well. And yeah, I forgot to mention about working as a data manager. We usually when we're observing the data, we use like a lot of systems to check it, and that's how we check for quality as well.
How do you go about checking data like that? I can imagine you mentioned about clean data. How can you talk a bit about that and how that works?
Yeah, so a lot of the data that we have, so when we're running a trial, a lot of the data will come from different sites. It depends on how big the study is,
Sure.
but we will collect the data from the sites, usually the hospitals where the subjects are being tested. We collect that data, and then as it comes into the systems that we have to collect that data. And in those systems are checks, and those checks will filter out if there are any inconsistencies in the data. But also, we have regular meetings where we look at that data and we interrogate it and we discuss if we need to edit or change things. That's what we call by cleaning it, making sure that it's ready. And then we work very closely with statistics and programming, and they are quite essential to the team because they help to analyze that data and bring a report that can be used to make decisions. So it's a continuous process of collecting data, cleaning, discussions, communication. So it's that kind of process before we reach the end of the trial where we are sure that the data is clean, accurate, and ready to be sent to the regulatory authorities for them to make a decision.
Hashim, this sounds brilliant. So in terms of, Josh, what you were mentioning, recruiting from all STEM disciplines, everything you're all kind of mentioning, it just makes it completely clear why you do need to recruit from all STEM disciplines, why you all need, people with different mindsets, but different problem solving skills, because they're all going to come into play at different stages of the process, isn't it? So literally any student that's listening can put in their applications in, because it just shows how much you need all those disciplines to get the job done. Next, I'm going to kind of talk on about the, I know we've kind of touched upon this already, but I know, Hashim, you mentioned about you kind of transferable skills that you're going to have now once you've finished your placement, going back to university, the communication skills and things like that. And Zoe, I know you touched upon some of those kind of communication skills as well, but is there anything else that you want to add to that in terms of skills and experiences that you've gained that you're going to feel as though that's going to really benefit you when you do go back into your final year? So Zoe, I'll come to you again first, but is there anything else you want to add to that?
I guess a big thing maybe links into communication, but networking. I think before going at university, you don't do much networking, but as soon as you come into like in your industrial placement, being actually in industry, networking is so important, and it's a really important skill to really develop. And I really think through this year, I've definitely developed that skill, because you have to talk to so many different people, and and you need to keep contacts with those people as well. It's really good if you haven't already to make a LinkedIn account just for when you finish your placement, so that you're still in contact with people that were your colleagues while you're here. And so networking is definitely a skill that I think will help in the future. And also, I'd probably say this will just help me in the future also when I'm looking at picking optional modules. So when I go back to my university course, I'll have a lot of optional modules, and obviously doing a year in the pharmaceutical industry, that will hopefully help me decide what sort of industry I want to go into, because especially with chemical engineering, there's so many industries that you can go into. So that will really help me making those choices.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Again, everyone knows I'm a very big advocate of students doing a placement, because it's an absolute benefit all around. So any students that are thinking about it, definitely listen to the advice that we're saying today. Hashim, do you want to add to that in any way? I know, again, you've touched upon some points. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, Jessica, sorry, could you just repeat the question, please?
Yeah, of course, can. Any points that you want to add in terms of the benefits of doing a placement and how that will affect you when you go back and do your final year?
Yeah, so definitely adding on to what Zoe said, networking is such a big part of this placement. It really is such a fantastic opportunity to meet people across lots of different roles, and I guess in the culture in this company, it's quite encouraged. So it's a really great place to really develop that skill for when you go back to university and you want to practice networking again. I guess for me, going back to university, a lot of the important skills that I would take away from this placement are organization, communication, and leadership. Definitely organization, being able to prioritize and manage my workload, That's such a key skill. And going back to university in my third year, I would have to manage both a dissertation and extra modules. So it's quite important to develop a skill and understand what is important, what do I need to focus on more compared to additional tasks, and really focus and deliver the best result.
Yeah.
Communication is such a big an important skill as well that I'm hoping to develop further in this placement. And again, bring it back to university. It's so important because we have a lot of presentations that we give in the final year for our degree. So being able to communicate well really comes, and you come across well to your audience, that can help. And also with just meeting more people and networking, communication helps. And leadership, again, sort of ties into organization, but to take ownership of the work that you have and acknowledge the responsibility that you have over your work. Again, it would be really useful to take back to university to make sure that I understand all the work that I have to do. I'm organized and I'm able to take responsibility and do that work as well. So all really valuable skills in prioritization and workload management.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question, Jess? So Hashim, you mentioned a couple of things there about organisation and prioritising things like that. So I think from people watching, like, I'm quite an organised person, so I think, oh, I know how to do X, Y, Z. Jess is fine, because me and Jess are like the angel and the devil when it comes to organisation. But if you were struggling, so if you were struggling with your workload or just being organised at GSK, do you have a mentor there? Have you got a manager there? Who can you go back to and say, look, I need some help with this situation? Who would you go to? I assume that was
if there's one thing that I really do enjoy about working here, is that there's such a really reliable support network. And it sort of ties into what Zoe was saying, that when I came in, I really wasn't sure about what was going on with this placement, but the support network was really good in helping me understand what needs to be done in the role. I'd say the best thing is that I can ask questions and everyone is really approachable, and that kind of helps me to manage the workload, because I can ask those questions to see if this is important, and then that will help me to focus on that task rather than a different one. So I do have mentors. I can speak to my manager. I have a lot of communication with my manager, usually on a weekly basis, but there are also people in the team. So you know how I mentioned that I'm working on a clinical trial? Well, we're part of a team, so there's lots of different roles, lots of people that I can speak to. I could speak to the statistician, the programmer. I could speak to the study manager, who's sort of like the project manager of our team and leads the team. So there's so many people to talk to, and that, I feel, really helps in sort of prioritizing my workload. Just being able to ask questions and have that support from people.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Hashim.
Zoe, I'm going to end this next question at you. Oh, sorry, Carla, do you want to say?
Oh, no, it's fine.
I'm going to end this next question at you, but anyone else, again, can add to it. Just want to talk through the application process, and if you can give the students an indication of what that looks like, and maybe any hints and tips that you thought maybe, would help.
Okay, so you obviously do your application, you send in. When I did it, there was a series of questions I had to answer. Obviously, advice I'd give throughout the whole of the application process and in your interview, link back to GSK's values, and just because that is something that is really important when you're asked questions. Because I know that they do in the interview section that is just to do with, they ask you a question, and what they want you to give is like an example, but also how does that link back to GSK's values. So that's just really important. Be yourself when you're doing these applications interviews. If you're yourself and the company is right for you, I mean, it will work out. Just be yourself and remember to smile. Don't be too nervous. Regards to more the application, so there was the initial application, then there was a sort of simulation idea, as if you were given, it was, you do it online, and it was like you were given questions or scenarios, and you had to think what would be the best answer to this, as if you were a placement student or an employee at GSK. And then when you got past through that stage, there was the actual interview process, which for me was online. It was like half a day, and I had 3 different sections. One was a presentation that I had to pre-prepare, and then I just presented, and then they asked me some questions afterwards. There was another section which was to do with more personality like questions, and you'd give examples and then link them back to how they align to GSK's values. And then the third section was that I was given some data to analyze, and they had to come up with a conclusion quite sort of quickly, and they'd asked me a few questions as well on what I'd analysed and why I decided that conclusion. So yeah, so it was a little bit intense, but you know, it's very doable. Like, and it overall it was an enjoyable process. I don't know whether Josh or others might have a bit more to add to the application process, though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think, yeah, what you said, so is absolutely spot on. But yeah, just to add to it, it's kind of a strengths-based application. So we're really interested in finding out, you know, the candidate and your strengths and your potential. We really want to see people who are genuinely really motivated and really interested in that area that they're coming in for. So you will get asked, you know, on the application form or other points like, why have you chosen to apply to GSK? Why have you chosen to apply to, you know, whatever role it is that you've applied for? And we really want you to be very specific there. So can you think of a specific reason that you know, GSK is really interesting to you? We had a few kind of fun facts earlier, and some of those might be a good one. But also, you know, why have you chosen that role? We've got hundreds and hundreds of different placement and graduate opportunities that you can apply for. Why have you chosen the one that you have? That's really what we want to see. Do you actually know what that involves? Do you know what you're going to be doing? Do you know what the team does? We really want you to, you know, to show that you're genuinely motivated and be as specific as you can there, and you'll do really well. We don't require you to have specific grades. In terms of your degree, you don't need to have a first or a 2-1 for our kind of placement or future leaders program roles. You don't need to have loads and loads of previous work experience or done loads of internships before or anything like that. We are more interested in, you know, your potential. What can you bring to GSK for the future, rather than, you know, necessarily what you've done in the past. So if you haven't had much experience before, but you're genuinely really interested, that's absolutely fine. You can still do really well in one of our applications.
Brilliant, perfect. Josh, if you don't mind me saying, because sometimes at the moment I feel, especially this time of year, and a lot of the students that are here today probably are sick of hearing me telling them what to do and how to do it. But did you ever see any common mistakes in an application? Is there anything that kind of sticks out to you that you think, oh, don't do that in your application?
So I think it's not necessarily a common mistake, but something that a lot of students do, and we get a lot of applications when they're asked, you know, why have you applied to GSK or why have you applied to this role, that are very vague, very general. That, you know, possibly the same answer used for multiple applications. So answers like, why do you want to work for GSK? And people might say, I really want to work for a large company and get lots of experience in a kind of global organization. And that, you know, that's fine. That's an okay answer. But if you can talk specifically, and I've chosen GSK because, and talk about that in a little bit more detail. So it's not, you know, clearly an answer that you've copied and pasted. I think any answer where you cross out the word GSK and you could write in another company's name and it would still make sense, is not necessarily what we're looking for. So I say that's probably a mistake that some people make.
Absolutely. Thanks, Josh. I think that's a clip in
I love
itself. So thank you. I appreciate that, Josh. So next we're going to come to you, Fionnuala. I feel like we could do a whole webinar just on you and your experiences. So I apologise we haven't given you much airtime yet. But if you could just tell everyone so far about your journey at GSK and just about all the amazing things you're doing.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I appreciate I'm a little bit further along in my career than Zoe and Hashim, but it's good just to kind of see what we're doing at GSK and kind of sort of what you can aim for in a few more years.
You're the role model.
Well, it's very kind. So as I mentioned, I joined about 18 months ago GSK, and I'd done various study, did an undergrad, and I also worked for a very small pharmaceutical company between finishing my undergrad and my PhD. So as much as Josh said, stay away from like large companies, I did kind of want to go in that direction because you do have a certain amount of impact. But it just kind of felt like a natural fit for me after gaining a lot of knowledge and experience to kind of put that into practice in a large company. And as I mentioned, I have always studied and worked in the field of genetics, and functional genomics was something I'm very passionate about. And the main kind of aim of our department and why it came about is really, we have been able to show, there's been lots of publications that if we are able to have a lot of genetic backup for drugs and medicines, they are about 3 times more likely to go through clinical trials. So if we're able to put a lot of effort in the beginning, just on cells and some models in the lab, then that means when you're testing in humans or further down the line, there's a lot more chance that it's going to work. So that's better for everybody involved. It means clinical trials in theory would be quicker, and we can just push things along. So it's really about backing up all the medical knowledge with genetics, really. And the field of genetics is just always growing. So it's a really, really interesting place to be working, really. I thought I'd just mention a sort of project that I've been working on, if that's okay, just to just jump in. So we also have, as much as like I'm a very lab-based scientist, we have huge departments that are computational biology based, and we have a group that are, we call them the AIML, the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So anybody who's not interested in being in the lab, we also have a huge amount of staff that are working on that, and their main role as a department is to predict what genes may result in disease. So one of the projects that I've been working on is we get a list of hundreds or thousands of genes from our AIML colleagues, and then we go into the lab and test them, and we feed that knowledge back to their predictions and their clever computer models that I don't quite understand. And then that helps, again, just really help the pipeline grow and yeah, just improve it. So there's lots of exciting things.
So could this work in the sense that, say, before a person is even born, before they're even a fetus, could you change genetics?
I mean,
so that
I think
individual doesn't have something wrong with them in the future?
I mean, in theory, yes, but that's a very long way off, because there's a lot of ethical considerations that we have to take into. We can't just go around doing that. But but the idea is, like, if there's a disease, that lots of genes can contribute to that. If something goes wrong, like a classic example is cancer. There's some genes that we know. If you have a certain level of that gene, you're more likely to get cancer. Doesn't mean you will. So if we're able to make a drug that targets that gene, then we can cure a lot of people.
Amazing. Wow. Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Oh no, I know. I
always think, don't just say
where do you think this is going in the future? Say 20 years from now. Do you think it's quite a slow process, or could you aim to be at those kind of positions 20 years down the line?
I mean, it's just getting quicker and quicker, really. I think the sort of way the field of sort of medicine is going is something called personalised medicine, where it is based on your genetics, not so much when you're a fetus, but when you're a bit older. And so a drug that may work, say me and you, Jessica, both have asthma, for example, a drug that may work for me may not work for you if we have slightly different genetic makeup. So if we're able to test that, that means that we can both get the drugs that are going to work for us without having bad side effects, etc. And also wasting money, for example, the NHS giving out lots of treatments that may only work for 80% of the people. So I think it's really a combination, and that's the way that things are starting to go that way already, but that is the real future, personalised medicine.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing though, isn't it? But obviously all the time there's different strains, like COVID, for example. It's just a new strain, isn't it? So they'll never, your job is kind of never ending, isn't it?
I quite like it though. There's always something to learn. Always new techniques. And as well as I'm a little bit further on in my career, I am constantly learning and developing things in GSK, and I know Hashim and Zoe have both mentioned that already, but I'm always doing training courses. They're always wanting us to develop, and so that's a reason that I really like working for this company. I've learned so much. I think no matter what stage you are and what area, whether it's I work in R&D, like clinical trials, etc., there's always a lot.
That kind of leads to my next question though. So how would you say, I know Hashim and Zoe are quite new and on placement and everything else, but you've been with GSK for a good couple of months now. So Fionnuala, this is for you. So how would you say for a student looking in or a graduate looking in, they could be successful in their career? And I love the fact that, you know, you've been there 18 months or so now, and you've still got loads of training and development, and they're still offering that service. But what would you say makes a person progress at GSK?
I would say saying yes to all the opportunities.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of, for me, there's a lot of practical opportunities in the labs. We also have a lot of online courses. So that could be a coding course, a management course, anything. So really just take advantage of all the opportunities that GSK have. I think we've already touched on this a bit, but having good organization and time management skills are essential. But also you're here to kind of learn how to do it. And just ask, really, if you're stuck or you need a hand with anything, don't be afraid to just say, could you show me this? It's a very opening and welcome environment. So I think say yes and ask for help is probably the best way to progress, and you'll just build and grow.
And then I was going to ask you this question. I could talk to you forever, but a career in genetics. So how does that come about? You know, it's like I wanted to be a teacher, which I think is quite normal, but a career in genetics when, you know, you're younger. Why did you think? What spurred you on? Was it a program or just a love of science? What made you decide to progress that?
Yeah, I mean, I always liked science, and I just found it very, very interesting. I thought about doing medicine. I thought about all sorts of things, but I just quite like the idea that very, very subtle changes in our DNA can cause disease, and I just found that very interesting, and the rest kind of followed. And it's just sort of build and grown as that. But just sort of I didn't grow up like when I was 8 years old, like I'm going to be a geneticist, but it was just sort of an enjoyment and an interest that just sort of developed and grew and
Yeah.
went from there.
Brilliant. We're going to definitely have to have a profile of you on Grad Cracker, 100%. Josh, I'm going to go to you for the same question that we asked Fionnuala before about what makes a student progress at GSK, student or graduate progress at GSK. What would you say that would be the key traits of a person?
Yeah, I don't think my answer is going to be too different, to be honest. It's asking lots of questions when you first join, and if there is someone who's doing like a role or an area that you're genuinely like quite interested in, absolutely go out of your way, ask them. You know, put some time in their calendar, go out of your way to chat to them, learn a little bit more about what they do. That's particularly important if anyone's joining on an industrial placement program. It's a good opportunity joining us for a year to, you know, learn what you want to do, but also maybe learn what you don't want to do. And it's a great insight into like all the different career paths within such a huge company. And I think students, when they first join, they're sometimes, you know, they don't want to necessarily go out of their way and ask, you know, a senior person for, you know, 10 minutes of their time to learn a little bit about what they do. But my experiences in GSK is if you do that, if you make that kind of first step and you send them a quick message or an email or chat to them if you're in the office for just a couple of minutes, they're very, very open to, you know, giving you advice, talking you through about what they do and how they got to the stage where they're at. And, you know, anyone who's joined us, who's come through that recruitment process and joined us on a placement or a graduate role, have gone through a very, you know, as Zoe mentioned, a very intense recruitment process. And you know, you're joining us because you're, you know, very, very good, and we're very lucky to have you joining us. So don't be, you know, afraid to take up space, ask questions, put time in people's diaries. You know, they'll be very, very happy to chat to you, and it's a really good way to learn and, you know, find out what you might want to do a bit further down the line, because there's so many career paths that, you know, I didn't know existed until you join such a big company, and I think most people wouldn't either. So yeah.
I really liked what Zoe said at the beginning as well, about having that handover from the last placement student as well. So I think you can kind of do a bit of digging and delving about how you should behave, who you can ask, and everything else. So just linking on from that, Hashim and Zoe, I'm going to start with you, Hashim, first. First day, you've gone through the application process, you've been successful. What hints and tips would you give a student for the first day starting at GSK?
Yeah, again, probably not so different to what Josh and Fionnuala and Zoe have said so far, but again, I guess the first question is just to ask questions. Everyone is really open to having a bit, putting a bit of time aside to talk about what they do. And on your first day, you'll find that there won't be as much work to do just because you're getting settled into the role,
Yeah.
and you still have your introductory training to do. So really that period, or that first week even, is a really valuable time to figure out what's going on, talk to some people, find out what you're really interested in. And it's something that you should always make time for as well in your placement, is because the aim of the placement is for you. It's whatever you want to get out of it. It's what you're looking for. So you should always have that time to speak to people, ask questions, find out what it is you like. Um, so that would be sort of the first tip, is to ask questions.
Mhm.
And the second tip is probably just to just relax, and also just give yourself that time to get settled in, just because it's such a new experience, and coming from university, it's so different. It's a
Mhm.
different way of working. There are lots of things to take in. There's so much information to process. So you should just give yourself that time to get adjusted, get into the work. And if you start slow, get your foundations correct, then it just makes it easier for you to find out what it is that you want to focus on. So probably ask questions, give yourself that time to get settled in, and also have a plan. So have a plan of things that you want to focus on throughout your placement. Have some goals. What is it that you want to achieve at the end of the year? What is it that you're looking for? Again, just gives you that focus and direction. But for your first day, first week, it's all about, getting your bearings.
Yeah, just settle in and enjoy it. So you mentioned,
Yeah.
I love that, the fact that you all said to yourself goals and things like that. So who would you speak to your boss, your manager about those goals to make sure that person knows, so then they can help you achieve them?
Yeah, so you would definitely speak to your manager about that. Like I said, I have weekly conversations with my manager. In those conversations, a lot of the time, I would ask him about things that I'm interested in and get some advice on ways I can move forward with that. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities for you to discuss your development with your manager. And what I like is that your manager also makes the effort to give you advice about how you can progress, how you can develop, just because development is such a big thing that's pushed at this company and everyone's still learning. So usually having that conversation with your manager is a great way to sort of refine your goals and give you a direction to focus on, to who you want to message. They might know someone that they can put you in touch with as well.
Yeah,
It just shows how ambitious that you are as well, doesn't it? So, Zoe, I don't know if you've got any other hints and tips for a first dayer at GSK, but if you haven't, don't worry, because I want to kind of cover off what Hashim covered up a little bit there about your future. So what are your goals and ambitions? What do you want to achieve in the next couple of months at GSK?
Yeah, Hashim covered that really well with
I
the
thought he did.
first day. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd probably add to it is reach out to people, and what I did in my first few weeks, because you have a bit more free time before you really get into the projects, is go and explore different areas, like on the production here at where we have, obviously I'm in micronizing, but you also have assembly, blending, filling. OSD, so go and talk to people, ask your line managers or people on your team who you can talk to get tours around the different areas to really get to know what's on site. But yeah, future goals. So I could definitely see myself as well. I'd like to hope I maybe be able to get onto the graduate scheme here at GSK. I know it is a competitive process. It's not guaranteed after your placement, but I'll definitely apply to GSK's graduate scheme at the end of this year. And but going forward, I guess I'll be going back to uni. I'll do my master's year, and then I'll just be really thinking about what is it that I want to go into. I definitely know pharmaceutical industry is definitely something that's really interesting. And but then again, I want to keep an open mind and just see what graduate opportunities are available for me afterwards. But yeah, I definitely think this year at GSK has definitely given me a few options, and what I've learned from here is I've learned more about the Future Leaders program that they have here, and also at where they have the Technical Development Graduate program as well. So I've been able to learn about that as well while I'm here. So it's definitely been really good to get to know what's out there for me. And I think also with the I think Josh was mentioning earlier, talking to different people and booking in some time. I was a bit nervous about doing that when I first came, but I just sort of went for it, and I booked in some time with different people in different departments, and now I like regularly talk to someone who's in capital projects, which I found really interesting, which is a bit different to my role. So, and just as advice for anyone who does get a placement or wherever you go, just feel free to book time into people's calendars, because generally they will give you the time of day to talk about their role and what they do. So yeah.
Oh, I do think people forget about that, when people do want to learn about your different opportunities and your roles and everything else, and people like to talk about themselves in the nicest sense, don't they? If they want to know about, so for Fionnuala, for example, we're fascinated by her role and her history and everything else, and you're an absolute credit to yourselves, aren't you, when you've progressed so well in a company. So thank you very much, Hashim and Zoe, for your future plans. We wish you the best of luck. Fionnuala, I'm going to come back to you. So what is the future looking like for you?
Well, I'm quite happy here at GSK, so I can see myself working here for quite a few years.
Yeah.
I think a sort of personal goal that will take several years, but I'd really like to, one of these genes that I've mentioned, I'd love to be able to see that travel all the way down to the drug or medicine departments and get approved. So I guess that's sort of like a long-term goal, but there's a lot of other people before it gets to that point, but that's kind of would be a really great personal goal.
And what's can I ask this? Is there a time scale? Do you know in your head, do you think, I'm so far into this project, I want it to come to fruition in 5 years' time, or is that?
It could be 5-10 years time. It could be. There's a lot of
wow.
processes that needs to go through. So it's not all down to me either. But I think that would just be a great.
Yeah.
I feel like you've had a bit of impact. So
it has to get through Hashim first, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'll speak nicely to him. No, we have to go through the correct procedures, but no.
No, brilliant. I haven't got, Jess, have you got anything else? Josh, I was going to come to you about the fact that we've inspired STEM students. Everybody is going to want to apply to GSK now.
Absolutely.
Anything that you want to add, hints and tips, application process? I know Zoe covered it off really well before, so.
No, nothing else other than some of the roles are kind of close on a rolling basis, so sometimes can close fairly swiftly. So if there is anything that you can see on GradCracker that's open at the moment, or any other roles at GSK, I'd very much recommend making an application sooner rather than later, because they can close on a rolling basis. Yes,
do not leave it till the last minute.
No.
And just to finish off, then I've scribbled down some notes. So don't forget Zoe's tip about the GSK values. Remember to mention them during the application process. Josh wants to see your strengths and weaknesses, so be yourself when you are applying and going through the whole application process as well. And also just be specific. If you can delete GSK and add another employer there, I'm going to use that. Definitely going to use that one, Josh. Make sure that that's not what you do when you're applying to GSK. Be specific about why you want to apply to GSK and that role in particular. And remember what Josh said, there isn't a minimum degree requirement, so open to everybody as long as you are a STEM student.
That's perfect. So, Carla.
Getting good at this. It's not my rodeo, So thank you very much everybody for joining us today. Hashim, Zoe, Fionnuala and Josh, wish you best of luck for your futures. It's been a fantastic insight. Don't forget, like I say every week, but this webinar will be live on the GSK Hub tomorrow. We'll break it down into bite-sized chunks, which will be over GradCracker in the next couple of weeks. Good luck, guys, in your final year at university as well. Wish you all the best, and hopefully you will be back as grads in a couple of years' time, and me and Jess will be doing another webinar with you. Fingers crossed. And next week, me and Jess will be joined by Centrica and the energy company, so we will look forward to seeing you all then.
Yeah.
Take care, and we'll see you later. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.